Welcome to the Office of Employer Initiatives Virtual Conference. I am Christina D. Whitty, and I am the Outreach and Development Representative for the Gulf Coast and Southeast Texas regions. A few housekeeping items before we begin. Except for the speakers for this session, all microphones are muted. Additionally, we ask that if you are not presenting, that you turn off your camera to preserve bandwidth. This conference will be recorded and is subject to the state's open records laws. I would now like to introduce the Office of Employer Initiatives Director, Mary York. Mary?
Good morning. Thanks, Christina. Well, good morning to everyone. If you were with us yesterday, welcome back. I hope you found the content to be interesting and insightful. I know I was inspired by some of the stories we heard. In fact, I think we had quite a few sort of side messages going, and it got a little teary-eyed even for a moment for some of us. So I hope that you were also inspired, and I can't wait to hear what we're going to learn about today. If you're joining us for the first time today, of course, I want to welcome you too. I think you'll find the resources shared by our team and our panelists can serve as important tools your organization can leverage to build your workforce and support additional investment in your community. And I also, of course, want to thank our panelists for taking the time to share their experiences and successes using TWC. I think it's such an important thing for us to be able to gain ideas from each other, hear what's worked for communities, maybe in some cases what hasn't worked so well for communities, but then how they've been able to pivot and adapt. And in some cases, the programs have even been able to pivot and adapt or help them do so. So looking forward to hearing from them today. So I know that Commissioner Alvarez is supposed to be joining us in just a moment. I don't think that he is on quite yet today, but I know he's looking forward to logging on and talking with you. And I will, while he's not on, give you kind of a little anecdote. He has been an amazing supporter of the Office of Employer Initiatives, which is kind of interesting in the sense that, you know, he is the commissioner. He was reappointed by Governor Abbott in March 2017 to continue serving as the commissioner representing labor for the Texas Workforce Commission. And I think he might be joining us right now as I'm speaking. But Commissioner Alvarez has this amazing passion for helping the state of Texas, and he sees the link and the importance in supporting employers. So labor, so employees, and let's face it, you know, if we're lucky, we're all employees, can succeed in the state and really have not just a job, but a career. And that is his goal, you know, his North Star, and he does an amazing job representing that and representing the interest of the more than 14 million Texas workers with respect to TWC services. He ensures that their concerns are considered in all commission actions. So Commissioner Alvarez, are you with us?
Yes, can you see me?
I can see you now. I can see you now. So thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. I've been informed that most of the time when I do these virtual meetings, I got to sit on a pillow because of my height. So
well, to be
I had
fair,
to go get one.
Yeah, don't tell anybody, but I boosted up my chair before I got
Good. So I, along with my snowman, are joining you this morning. That's the only Christmas decoration we have here in the office. No, but all seriousness, thank you, Mary, for allowing me to be a part of today's discussion. So yesterday, I had an opportunity to hear from some of the panelists like Larry McManus, of course, Reba Bacon. How cool was that to hear testimonials from some of the students that you all serve? That was awesome. And then I want to thank Matt for the shout out. Matt's right. He knows that I continue to say that our Office of Employer Initiatives and the Texas Workforce Commission, along with our partners, our ISD partners and our EDCs, Ken is part of that, and of course our community colleges, touch the lives of so many people. And it's so cool when you can go somewhere and you can see the fruits of what you all have done while people are purchasing Christmas gifts with money they've earned through the training that they've received from us. But enough of that. Let me talk about some of the great things that people that know me know that I love to be the cheerleader of some of the great programs that we have. Now, I would be remiss, I heard yesterday when the chairman referenced yesterday, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that the Texas Workforce Commission has been overwhelmed with the number of individuals that are calling the agency wanting to know the status of their unemployment insurance benefits or just any concerns regarding UI. But we're way more than that. In 2016, we started seeing other programs coming under the Texas Workforce Commission umbrella, like vocational rehab. JET came over from the Texas Comptroller's office. How cool was that? AEL was new to the agency. At that time, we all know, oh my God, Anson. And now we're under the leadership of Mahalia, who you'll hear later on today. But the reason that I share all of these programs is because one thing that makes us so unique compared to all the other agencies around the country, is that we've been able to blend services. And we have been so innovative. I mean, think about it. We now are working, and I think that's why Mary, and I know that's why Mary has Mahalia on, and people like Robert Andrade and folks like Ann Fan that are going to be on today, because we're going to talk about how we've blended services. Just in the short time that Mary has been in this role, I have seen so many other things that have actually come into place. This conference, I've seen it grown. Of course, we've had some great people that have overseen this department. We've had great people, starting with Commissioner Demerson, and of course, we all know Dale Robertson did a great job. But Mary, we're very fortunate to have folks like you and the team that you've assembled to take us to the next level. And working with our employers, I heard that multiple times yesterday, how TWC, along with our community partners, our EDCs, and of course our nonprofits, were working together, thinking about ideas. Now, I understand that we're under challenging times with COVID, but it has allowed us to be so creative in what we've done. Our workforce specialist teams have done a tremendous job of talking to employers and reaching out to everyone, talking about the services that we have, how Office of Employer Initiatives are now touching the lives of people that have been incarcerated. This is Lee College Incarceration Center, who purchased through the JET grant, applied for a JET grant for a CDL simulator. That's amazing that what you guys have been able to do. And then some of the programs that are taking place. Now, I know yesterday the chairman referenced Texas Tech, but I have to give a shout out to Texas A&M. You know, Texas A&M has a cybersecurity program working closely with Mary and Ann Fan, and of course, some of the other folks around the state, teaching high school kids, giving them this credential and this program, allowing them to pick up a skill. Now, I know Ken out there in one of my EDC partners talks about the value of CTE. Look, the three commissioners know that there is a value in career and technology and education. We also know that that's what employers are looking at. I carry this book, and for people that know me, I refereed college football for 15 years, and I carried an NCAA rule book for 15 years in my back pocket. What I carry now is the tri-agency report. And of course, we have a revision to that, an update to what we've done. And we have all kept in line with what was actually implemented. The Texas Workforce Agency has reached out to populations that were at some time, we could say in the past, disenfranchised. Think about what the Office of Employer Initiatives are doing for people that are transitioning out of military service. Mary will tell you, and so will her staff. Think about what we're doing for those individuals like what they had, and Christina DeWitty was there when I talk about those individuals that are women transitioning out of military service that are working at S&B Infrastructure and getting their training now through the IRAP program. And then of course, we have all of these individuals now. We have a program in South Texas that Mary's working on for these high school kids that will actually be bused, and hopefully it'll work. They'll be bused into a local hospital, training on the equipment that's there at the hospital. What better equipment than to train with that and hopefully receive a credential? And that's with the grant that Mary had, this CARES skills grant that she that she has out there with the help of my commissioners, my fellow commissioners, Chair Daniel, and of course, Aaron Demerson. Great folks to be supporting Mary and her team at this time. But at the end of the day, we couldn't have been successful if it hadn't been for each and every one of you that are on the call. My God, we have an apprenticeship program in South Texas that teaches individuals how to make beer. And then we have something here with Paul Fletcher, where we have an apprenticeship program where they're teaching individuals on window glazing, the first of its kind. Or in the Dallas area, where we're teaching individuals in a program on how to take care of children, a child care apprenticeship program. Ladies and gentlemen, we're listening to you all. Let us be creative. With Mary's help and with the help of Courtney Arbor and Ed Cerna, we've been able to put out programs where we now have allowed our boards the ability to use some of their funding to actually pay for things like broadband service. We know that's a #1 priority, maybe in the legislature right now. That's all I hear, that apprenticeship and CTE. That all comes from listening to stakeholders like you. The best way to promote the trades is for you all to continue doing the great work you do. I'm not going to go to a community college or to a municipality or to a city because of an ad that I hear. I'm going to go there because of what you all have put in place. The creativity of things that you guys have been able to do. You know, in South Texas, I know of a program where every 5th grader, with the help of our agency, every 5th grader now is able to learn how to code the town from Mission, Texas. And then I hear about all the great things that are happening in Texarkana, the Panhandle, and of course, in El Paso. So even though right now we're experiencing some of the worst times that this state has experienced in this nation, we are doing a pretty good job in Texas. And that's a true testament from all of you that are on the line and those that unfortunately couldn't make it today. Think about it. It took all of us to do what we're doing. It took all of us to get Elon Musk to move to Texas. It took all of us to get the folks from Hewlett Packard to come to Texas, and SpaceX to come to Texas, and the various LNGs to come to Texas, and Red River Steel, and all these other companies that are looking at coming into Texas. It's because they hear about the workforce and how you have prepared the workforce for tomorrow. One of the things that I take so much pride in, is the fact that I can say that the Texas workforce boards, our economic development partners, our community colleges, our ISDs and nonprofits have always been proactive. Think about it. Think of all the companies that have been coming over to Texas as a result of we having a trained and skilled workforce and being able to promote the trades, as I said earlier. The best marketing tool for what we do is what the product that we put out. So when I address programs out there and I talk about skilled workers, my apprenticeship schools, my union schools, my community colleges, it's interesting because when I talk to them and I go to other states and they say, at the age of 6, we get adult learners here, and Aaron was with me at a conference when we had to go to Mississippi, and we had a company that was interested in coming into Texas. And they were saying, what we do for our adult learners is, we prepare them to do NCCER, and they take a little bit of forklift driving, and we give them a little math, and then they're ready to transition into the workforce. And I said, I love what you all do in this state. But let me tell you, in Texas, we do all those things that you've just referenced in middle school and in high school. Where else can you go and hear that we have programs, either pre-apprenticeship programs or registered apprenticeship programs, where we're teaching kids, like in San Antonio, how to build tiny homes? That's amazing. A true testament for what you're doing. Again, we appreciate the fact that we do not solely own what we put out. We share those ideas. That's what Texans do. That's why prior to COVID-19, our unemployment rate was 3.4, and we were like that for 8 consecutive months. Best place to do business. And I know Commissioner Demerson will tell you that. But we continue to put out great products, especially during dire times like what we're experiencing. Mary and her team being able to train everyone, being able to ask for all our money to come back, de-obligate, and prioritize where that money should be. And Chairman talked about the application. We heard from you, and we heard, can we condense, shorten up the application and expedite it? And we did that. We have programs right now. I'm one of the things that I'm super proud of. And again, it's because of blended services that we have. You know, we've always sponsored for the last couple of years, we have sponsored First Robotics, Best Robotics in the past for the brightest minds in this great state to go through a robotics competition and UIL. And I think it's in Richardson or one of those places up there in Tarrant County. But the commissioners and I thought, why not focus on those individuals that have a disability? They're going to be part of that workforce. And so we increased the funding thanks to Courtney and Jen Troke and all her team, Debbie Carlson and Cheryl Fuller, and of course, Ed Cerna, for allowing us to be able to do that. So now we have portions of that grant go specifically to fund students that have a hearing disability, and they like to use the word deaf. Again, that's amazing on what we're doing. Again, being proactive. That's the Texas approach, is being proactive. And then, of course, the coding camp for girls and some of the things that we've been able to do. This bracelet that I wear is my name in binary number. From a young girl, Clear Lake College, we identified her and she made a bracelet for me, and it's my name in binary, it's my initials in binary number. Thank you, Texas workforce. Thank you, community colleges. Thank you, ISDs. Thank you, EDCs, for all you do to make my job so much easier. I take so much pride in helping those individuals that need our help. Keep in mind that every individual early on, I should say, while they're going through junior high and high school, keep in mind that everyone has an opportunity to go to college. And we should make sure that the trades, those CTE programs and the healthcare, that you can be successful without a four-year degree. Keep that in mind. Give individuals options and not alternatives. I know of Jared Stevens, who went through the cybersecurity program that Mary York and her high demand and Robert Andrade put together. And we have Jared Stevens, who went to A&M for a semester, but decided he had to come back to South Texas. They put a program together, and in 8 weeks, he received 4 CompTIA certifications. Jared Stevens now works at Booz Allen in San Diego, and they would have given him more money if he had had a 4-year degree. Jared Stevens started at $108,000 with the CTE, or I should say an industry recognized credential. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for what you do. Thank each and every one of you. I like taking this opportunity to be the cheerleader for all the great work that you all do. I know there's a Miss Jasmine Hernandez and Miss Verial, and of course the folks in Texarkana and the folks in Central Texas, Panhandle and East Texas, and the West Texas area that do such great work in promoting at an early age options that individuals have. I love all of you. I wish I was there with you. You're going to hear from great panelists like Mahalia, how she's working with Wyndham and how we're able to use some of our services for those individuals that are behind bars. Even Governor Abbott has said, everyone deserves a second chance. Don't we all agree? So thank you. I don't want to take any more of your time. You have an excellent agenda today, as you did yesterday. Good to hear from my friends on all the great work that's happening. But let's be cheerleaders on all the great work and accomplishment. There's nothing wrong with that, because we put in a lot of hard work. And Matt, thank you yesterday for saying, you're right. We, as an agency and as a team, touch the lives of people that we'll never meet. So thank you for that. So Mary, I'll turn it back over to you. I know Christina DeWitty is going to be introducing some folks, but again, the one-pagers that you provide to everyone, thank you for that, Mary. Thank you for providing the tools. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at what we can do to and areas that we've never reached out to. For those individuals that are behind bars, providing them with the literature that they need. All they got is time. Let's provide them with the tools needed to be successful. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. We not only appreciate you being with us today, but your passion for the work being done here at TWC in partnership with our allies throughout the state. I know you touched on being a referee, but seriously, I can't believe you weren't a cheerleader, because and you mentioned that at the end, I feel pumped up. I feel like we're all pumped up to start today. You are a great champion for all of the work being done, not only here at TWC, but throughout the state, to help people succeed in their careers. And
Thank you.
And when they succeed, as Governor Abbott frequently says, Texas succeeds. So I can't think of a better way for us to have kicked off the morning. So thank you
Well,
for taking
thank
the time
you.
to be with us.
Thank you. Now I can take back my suit because I was borrowing it from Dillard's. And I'm glad that you said Texas Workforce Commission. I tell people, and people have heard this before, but everybody thinks that I work at Time Warner Cable. My dad thinks I work at Time Warner Cable, but I keep telling him I work at TWC, Texas Workforce Commission, Dad. Thank you for the nice words, Mary. And again, it's so easy when you have such great people and true testament. It's obvious by the number of participants today and those that unfortunately couldn't make it, but everyone does such great work. So thank you.
Well, and thank you for your interest in watching, popping in yesterday. I know that you had a chance to hear some of those testimonials directly as you referenced today. And I hope you'll be able to pop in occasionally with us today. I know you've got a busy schedule, but that this is all information that we're proud of, and we want to make sure we get out to people. So thanks so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm pumped up for today. Before we jump into today's topics, Emily Lawley is going to give us a quick overview of the day's agenda. Emily currently serves as the Manager of Education and Workforce Development Outreach within the Office of Employer Initiatives here at TWC. And I know many of you know Emily, but prior to coming to TWC in 2015, Emily was a member of the Economic Development and Tourism team within the Office of the Governor, where I myself came from. So Emily, are you ready to take it away?
Yes, good morning, Mary. Thank you so much. And thank you, Commissioner Alvarez, again, for those words. As always, it is a great way to start the day when we can start it with you. So thank you so much. So I hope everyone enjoyed yesterday. Today promises to be just as wonderful and filled with encouraging information and examples of how community partners have utilized these TWC programs in their own organizations to benefit their communities. So today we are going to be delivering information regarding the high demand job training program and Texas Industry Partnership, as well as registered apprenticeship, AEL, or adult education and literacy. And then we will also be getting a legislative update. And at the end of the today's event, we will be hearing from Commissioner Aaron Demerson to close out our conference. So enjoy, and thank you again for joining us this morning.
Good morning, everyone. We're getting started with our next session. This session is the introduction, is the high demand and tip flexible programs that can work for you. So today we'll speak on collaboration. In these times, collaboration is exactly what we need. Bridging our gaps, mending fences, finding common ground, finding a solution through collective problem solving. If we work together, we find these solutions. So we never give up on those basic needs that we have, especially in these times. Today's presenters are Carlton Schwab with Texas Economic Development Council, Martin Aguirre with Workforce Solutions South Plains, Aaron Ray with Workforce Solutions South Plains, Christine Allen with Lubbock Economic Development Alliance, Amy Baker with Friendship Independent School District, Jenna Ackridge with Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area, Damon Fleury with Cyber Defenses. Seth Green will take questions at the end. I do want to acknowledge the following people. Amy Swank with the Texas Economic Development Council for helping put the presentation together with TEDC. John Osborne with Lubbock Economic Development Alliance for being a great supporter and just an all-around good guy. Paul Fletcher with Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area also for the same. And then Kevin Brown with the Texas Workforce Commission. He's our grant manager with Workforce Boards and Grants. He's been a super help. He's my colleague and my partner with this effort, and also the entire the Workforce Board Grants team, Stephanie Huerta, Travis Weaver, and of course, their leader, Jennifer Troke. This session will touch on the effectiveness of the programs with economic development corporations in Texas, with an award-winning example of best practice of the use of high demand funds, and we'll follow this up with a TIP project that was able to include multiple educational entities and develop a strong program for training cybersecurity specialists. So my first panelist is Carlton Schwab. And Carlton, I've known for a number of years, and we talked about how we got to where we are now with the high demand job training program. So Carlton, just exactly how did we get to this point?
Robert, good morning. Thank you for having me. Honored to be a part of the conference. This has become kind of a regular event for us at the TEDC over the years. I'm really sorry, like everyone else, that we can't be in person and can't see everyone personally. But hopefully next year we can get back to visiting with folks in person and again being a part of this great event. Before I get started, I didn't know that Commissioner Alvarez had been a college football referee. I'm thinking he should have been a college football coach, because I would, I might run through a brick wall for that guy. I mean, I was fired up after hearing his talk this morning, and what a wonderful advocate for our workforce programs in the state of Texas. Now, to your question, Robert, I was summoned to Commissioner Alcantar's office several years ago now, and basically asked, hey, can you come over and visit with me and Aaron about an idea that we have? And it was at that point in time that Commissioner Alcantar brought up the idea of the high demand job training program. And would we support it? Would the TEDC, as the advocate for economic development in the state? And I said, absolutely, let's get started. And Aaron, at the time, as a staffer before he became commissioner, took the ball and ran with it. And he and Commissioner Alcantar worked to establish the high demand job training program. And as I felt certain at the time, our EDCs around the state grabbed the ball and working collaboratively with their workforce partners have made this program a true success program, like so many others in our state. 18 years ago, the TEDC established a program called the Workforce Excellence Program. And it was at that time we were really working hard to promote more collaboration between the economic development world and the workforce world. And I remember thinking, well, this is an obvious marriage. This is an obvious way for these worlds to collaborate. And I know early on we were kind of frustrated that perhaps this was moving along too slowly. And you know, in our world, nothing ever really works fast enough. But over the years now, our Workforce Excellence Program has generated a lot of interest, has been an important part of what we do in the economic development realm and working with our workforce partners. We'll have that program again this year. It opens, nominations open on March the 1st and close on April the 30th. We anticipate that there'll be 25 program applications like there are on an annual basis. And as I'm about to go over to the next slide, we'll see that many of those have submitted programs that take advantage of the HDJT grant programs. So here's an example of some of the ones that we've had over the years. You can see on the screen. Notice, speaking a little bit later, the participation of our dear friends in Lubbock, dating back to 2016, 2018, and it's certainly in collaboration with Workforce Solutions of South Plains as well over the years. Again, this is an important program for local economic development. And as you mentioned, Robert, in particular, our local economic development sales tax organizations. You know, I can't ever say enough about the fact that in Texas, economic development is a decidedly local endeavor. We have 725 EDCs around the state doing economic development for their communities at the local level, at the closest level to the people and the voting public. So it's up to the communities to do economic and workforce development at the local level. And without getting into all the history of this, it's a Texas way of doing things. And we've got over 30 years now of just unparalleled success in economic development that is driven at the local level and supported by great state programs like the job training programs that we have in the state of Texas. You know, it's topical right now because we're working on our legislative agenda. You know, Robert, you mentioned Amy helping put together this part of your program today. We're working on our legislative agenda, and the high demanding job training grant program is a big part of the advocacy that we have for maintaining the state's workforce development programs, and of course, including skills, Recruit Texans, and the Job Education for Texans grant program, as well, the JET program. So again, Robert, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be a part of this program. You've got some great speakers coming up, some folks who can talk about their experiences with the high demand job training program and their success with it. And again, good luck on the rest of the conference. And thanks again for having me be a part of it.
Thank you, Carlton. I greatly appreciate that. I'm going to give you all just a very quick view of our high demand job training program. Hopefully you can see this. So this program, sorry. All right. Okay, one more time. All right, one more time. Come on now. All right. Well, we're struggling today, but we'll get through this. Okay. Well, for whatever reason, my slideshow is not working, so that's okay. What I do want to talk about is the high demand job training program is a program that fosters relationships between the Economic Development Corporation and the Workforce Solutions Board. We have that relationship allows the workforce board of the local region of the 28 boards. They can apply for funds. These are WIOA funds, and these funds allow for the development or application of funds towards a workforce related program. And no one does it better than the Workforce Solutions of South Plains. They have done an outstanding job. And I want to introduce Mr. Aguirre. Martin, please, and Aaron, please take this away. Go ahead and share your screen. You're on mute there, Martin. There you go.
There you go. What we're fixing to present is, of course, the winner of the National Association of Workforce Boards Leadership Business Award this year. And then, of course, from the Texas Economic Development Council, we being Lubbock, won the award for this year. And as you noticed in the previous panel that was displayed, we have had a successful run for about 3 years between John and I, but we've been doing this a lot longer. One of the things that we wanted to emphasize about these types of partnerships and community involvements is the amount of years that we've been cultivating these types of projects in the workplace and partners in the workplace. Because when we look at the applications that TWC says, okay, that we're going to be opening application for this grant project, we actually solicit partners from all of our schools. And this is the South Plains. We have 15 counties, over 13,000 square miles. Where there's a star, there's a cooperating school district. So you can see where Workforce Solutions South Plains has 4 offices in this area, and we're headquartered out of Lubbock. The South Plains region of Texas is about 500,000 people population. Lubbock County alone accounts for 300,000 of that. So some of the impacts that we make in these districts are things that they wouldn't get anywhere else. And we've emphasized equipment because that's a multi-year investment. We've emphasized that it's taught in multiple classes, that the equipment will still be there, and we want them to just take advantage of it. And then they come to us year after year. It's gotten to the point now this year, for the first time, I think we've had a plethora, my favorite word, a plethora of applicants. And we're not going to be able to fund everybody, but we're going to, again, be strategic in the decisions we make about, we're funding demand occupations, targeted occupations. We're funding things that we need in our area. You probably know about the South Plains, I hope you do, that our primary industry is actually agriculture. But agriculture is such a big classification that we need people in all parts of agriculture, whether it's not just a farmer on the tractor, it's also the gens, it's also the equipment that they use. We do a lot of heavy metal because of the equipment and the need for all of that. We grow about 20% of the country's cotton in this area. We're probably the largest cotton producing area in the United States. So that's one of the things that people always think about cotton. But that's just the one piece of our economy, because the other part of it is Texas Tech. Can never say enough about Texas Tech here. There are 40,000 students, and they are the incubator for a lot of the research and a lot of the different impacts that they have on our education system. And every school district in our area tries to have a partnership with Tech, and so that they have a pattern of growth for their students. After that, we have medical centers. We're the major medical center for this area, and that's not just these counties. We have people coming in here from New Mexico and all parts of the Big Bend, and part of our area abuts the Amarillo area, the Workforce Solutions of the Panhandle. And so when we look at that, we have everyone coming here. We've had some issues with COVID-19 because the small towns out there in rural Texas don't have the facilities to take care of their people in the medical area like that in severe times. But I could take up all the time, but I know that I want to get y'all to the people that actually do the work. So we do appreciate the opportunity to present this to you. Again, one emphasis I'll put: don't think of it as this is the end of a one project, 12 months and you're over. This is multiple years. We've been doing this a number of years, and each year we have a different partner, different investors coming in. We have, of course, John Osborne, our partner here in Lubbock, which we wouldn't have started all of this without John's help. And I can't believe that after all this years, we're having economic development corporations from the big cities, from Brownfield, from Plainview, from other communities in our area, that they're not putting in big dollars, but they're putting in the dollars to match the TWC money because it's important to their town and it's important for them. And it'll go farther in the small town than it will go in the big town, where it gets consumed in a larger budget. So Anyway, let me stop there. Erin Ray is our strategic planner, chief bottle washer and everything else at the office. And she writes the grants and works very diligently with the Workforce Commission and with Chris Allen, who you'll hear in a few minutes. And I did want to thank Robert Andrade, because Robert is our referee, coach, just keeps us in line and makes sure that, you know, we're getting our application done correctly and timely, so that the funds will not be interrupted as we go from year to year with these grants. And so, again, best thing I can advise everybody else is, well, just get started. You know, this is not the end. This is the beginning of all these projects. So, Erin, it's all yours.
Thank you, Martin. I was going to share a short video with y'all, but we're having some technical difficulties with that. So hopefully we'll be able to post the link in the chat box and y'all can watch on your own. The impact of this project over the last 5 years has been $2,213,668 in equipment funded to CTE programs in 35 high schools across the South Plains. 4,074 students have been trained, earning industry certifications and college credits. So those are just the students that we've tracked for the first year of the grants to the schools. The equipment has a lifetime of several years, and so the return on our investment is exponential. And the need is ongoing. Industry is constantly evolving, upgrading, updating, innovating. And so the machine that we bought 5 years ago may need an expensive software update. It may need to be replaced. So the need for this project just keeps going and going, and we have yet to reach all of the school districts in the South Plains. But this year we're going to add several more to that. So we're very lucky to have partners in the South Plains who believe in the mission of this project, who believe in investing in our future workforce. And how we have utilized the high demand job training grants. Our partners have been the Texas Workforce Commission, the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance, Texas Mutual Insurance Company, and Brownfield, Idalou, Levelland, Littlefield, and Plainview Hill County Economic Development Corporations. And of course, the Region 17 Education Service Center. The project would not be possible without our joint efforts. So let me walk you through the process, how we use these high demand job training grants. We issue an RFA every year to the ISDs, and the Region 17 Education Service Center helps us put this out. As those requests come in from the schools, we compile a budget of all of the equipment they're requesting that year. And we request the various EDCs and our business partners for the matches for the school districts in their areas. And that matches the money coming from the Texas Workforce Commission. Then we select the programs to be funded. Every year up until this year, we've been able to fund every school's request entirely. But as word has gotten out about the project, we've had more schools this year apply for nearly $1 million in equipment, and that's more funding than we had available this year. So we've, as Martin said, we've had to select which programs we'll fund this year. Then we submit our high demand job training grant application to the Texas Workforce Commission. And once that's funded, we contract with the Workforce Board contracts with each independent school district. And then the Economic Development and the Workforce Board, we start the procurement process and start collecting grant reports from the school districts. Some of the equipment that we've been able to fund with this grant are healthcare simulators, welders, iron workers, CNC plasma machines, tire balancers, automotive diagnostic machines, HVAC training equipment, electrical training equipment, and several other items. These are all equipment that cost several thousands of dollars, and the high schools in our area wouldn't be able to offer the industry certifications and the college credits that they're able to without this equipment. We're very fortunate to have EDCs in the South Plains who believe in this mission, and especially the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christine Allen with LEDA, and she will tell you a little more about Lubbock Economic Development Alliance's role in the project. Christine?
Thanks, Erin. Good morning, everyone. I'm Christine Allen, the Director of Workforce Development for the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance, and it's a privilege to be speaking here today. Even though we've been doing these projects since 2014, 2015 timeline, this grant seemed very different to us and very empowering. To have 5 different EDCs step up and want to fund equipment in their area was wonderful. And then to have a private employer, Texas Mutual Insurance, contact us and offer to fill in the rest of the gaps just made this project special. It made it a very strong project, and it was very uplifting and fulfilling to work. It's fun to work with your partners, our Workforce Solutions partners, our EDC partners, as well as our boards and city officials. It's fun when everybody's behind you and behind a project. So this equipment really makes a difference to these school districts, both the larger school districts and the rural school districts. One example is one year we funded a small school district that had a CNA program, and their students weren't passing the certification. And so they applied for the grant, requested CNA equipment, a lot of mannequin arms and blood pressure cuffs and those types of things. Once we got that equipment installed in that program, at the end of the school year, 100% of their students passed the CNA certification. And so that's just a great example that working with state-of-the-art equipment, relevant equipment makes a huge difference. I think the students are more excited to learn. The teachers are more excited to teach about this equipment and using this equipment. And so it's just a win-win. And that's when, it really, really does make a difference. As Erin mentioned, one wonderful component of this grant is that it just it lasts on and on. Because that equipment's going to be in these school districts for, years, the student impact is exponential. And I think our younger students in middle school are starting to see it and starting to hear about the equipment as they make their decisions about which pathway they're going to select in high school. Lita and myself, and I know John, it's been an honor to be a part of this project. As I mentioned, it's fun when everyone believes in it and when you can make a difference. So I appreciate it, Erin, Martin. It's been a blast, and I look forward to working on the High Demand Project in years to come.
Thank you, Christine. I want you all to hear from one of our school district partners, Friendship ISD. So I'm going to turn it over now to Amy Baker, and she's going to say a few words.
Thank you all. I just have been on the receiving end of this project for many years, and I'm so grateful for all of the partners that have been involved. Where we are here in Lubbock County, we are a fast-growing school district. So we are trying to keep up with growth. We are trying to keep up with demand. We have had the fortunate opportunity to hire teachers who have come from industry and have seen what that industry equipment needs to look like, what those training and skill processes are. And so over the last few years, we've just been a recipient of equipment that has truly made an impact for us. Everything from welding, fabrication, automotive, health science as well, like Christine talked about. But I've also been able to see dear friends and administrators who've worked with our rural districts and have worked with a number of other schools and have seen the significant impact that it has made to students. I think one thing, and Erin, I'm not sure if there's another slide there, but I think one benefit that it has been for us in addition to saving local resources and really increasing our capacity for purchasing equipment, is that has increased our accountability. It has helped us as a school to really look and fine tune, where are we training students, what skills do they need, how are we aligning to the jobs that are in demand in our area, and becoming familiar with even what that high demand list looks like for our county. And it's opened up those conversations for additional partnerships and for additional growth as our students. So really that strategic planning process has helped us grow. It's helped us increase across the board. It's helped us look at our middle school course offerings and what we're doing at the middle school level to better prepare kids for each level as they go through that process. So we're just a fortunate recipient and are so grateful for all the work that you have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And thank you, Martin and Christine. feel free to email me. My email address is on the screen if you have any questions. And also we'll stick around for questions during the question and answer time. And Robert, I believe that's all we have.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everyone that participated with your presentation. What a remarkable project. And by the way, I really enjoy what I do and the people I work with. Yeah, sure, there's a lot of pushing and pulling, but it's a wonderful opportunity to work with a great number of communities. These projects are easily duplicated. So certainly, you know, if you have an idea and you wanted to follow somebody else's idea, and certainly collaboration, sitting and talking with each other. So this next project I'm going to describe, it's with our Texas Industry Partnership Grant. So Texas Industry Partnership is kind of an afterthought. So high demand job training works with the economic development corporations. And we realized that not every community has an economic development corporation. San Antonio, Austin, Houston, Dallas, they don't have an economic development corporation. And a lot of times rural communities struggle as well. Their economic development corporation may not have enough funding. So this program was built to allow for foundations to participate, industry foundations. And so this program was built for just that, to allow them to participate with what we have, with same funding, but with a new spin. Allow these organizations to participate. So I am going to begin this presentation and allow Jenna Ackridge, please take over.
Good morning, everyone. I'm with Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. We're delighted to be here and share information about me, to kind of give information on the grant in general. So I'm going to try to, in these next few slides, give you a snapshot with some background, timeline, outcomes, and look at who all received training. Next slide, Robert. Cyber Defenses, Inc. is housed in Round Rock, Texas, and they came to us and said, we have just been awarded the first DOL registered cybersecurity apprenticeship program. And if you think about it, cost for cybersecurity. So Cyber Defenses needed assistance with setting up a training academy, not only for their apprentices, but also for other organizations in the area that needed cybersecurity training. As we worked on our application, the use of TIP funds were for training materials, consumable supplies, and curriculum development, licensing, purchasing, instructor salaries. The total amount was $95,000. And I know when Damon speaks in a few minutes from Cyber Defense, he may talk about this $95,000 was a very small piece of what they needed in order to get all this training up and going. In August 2017, next slide, Robert.
Yep. Okay.
We submitted our TIP application to TWC, and by October, we had our contract and the TIP grant started. From October through December, the first quarter, Cyber Defenses recruited companies that needed cybersecurity training. They recruited students that they did in-depth assessments on to see if they were appropriate for the apprenticeship program and that training. They developed curriculum. They procured and secured licensing for curriculum and set up all their instructors. In January of 2018, the training began. And then the next slide will show you some of the outcomes. Robert.
There you go.
There you go. So 18 participants had those in-depth assessments to see if they were appropriate to be an apprentice. Then 112 participants enrolled in the training academy from different organizations and businesses in our area. 106 of them completed. The 6 participants that were the apprentices completed 2 rounds of their training and each passed certifications on their first attempt. As other organizations had their staff and employees come to take the training, we know at least 25 were eligible to take a certification test. We don't know if they took it. We don't know how many passed, but they were prepped for that. And then also CompTIA certifications were attained. And then from our point of view from workforce, it was astounding that 26 different employers or organizations actually needed and participated in this training from cyber defense. And we were kind of unaware of just how vast the need was. So in summary, we had the first DOL cybersecurity apprenticeship program. The TIP funds increased the capacity for training in the industry. This was not just for one company or cyber defenses, but really met that criteria for industry development. So CDI provided training to 26 organizations, 112 individuals, and during 16 classes. They did exceed the match requirements by 47,000. And the other thing we want to make sure we recognize and applaud is that Cyber Defenses is a veteran-friendly employer and how much we appreciate that. The last slide is a list of the participating employers. And as you glance through that, you're going to see public as well as private, everything from Dell Computer to Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas National Guard, University of Texas system. So this type of training was in huge need in 2018, and as we know, even a larger demand now. So from Rural Capital's perspective, this was a terrific grant for our area and a terrific grant that helped the industry as well. And I'm going to let Robert now turn it over to Damon, who is really the person behind this at Cyber Defenses.
All right. Thank you, Jenna. Thank you, Robert. My name is Damon Fleury. I am the Chief Technical Officer here at Cyber Defenses. We really, we've really appreciated the access to the grant as well as the relationship that we were able to build with Jenna and Paul and the team in the rural capital area, as well as with Robert. And really, it was the culmination of about a year's worth of work to figure out how to work with the various entities and how to obtain access to this grant, as well as a couple of other programs. We had a great relationship with our local school district at Round Rock ISD and at ACC as we put together these projects. For us, we were going through an interesting time, being a company that's been at Round Rock for 20 years and mostly working on federal projects, turning ourselves into an organization that really wanted to grow into commercial and state and local. And we saw this as an opportunity to really work with the TWC so that we could really expedite our projects. We started a registered apprenticeship program, we started a training academy, and these funds helped us at a time when we needed to grow and grow those capabilities, and we could do that as we were growing our overall program. And so it's really been core, and that time has been important to our business. We not only started a great training academy at that time, but we started a really critical registered apprenticeship program, which has seen a second cohort since that time. That first cohort, those folks that graduated that program have now been with Cyber Defenses for about 2 years. And one of the areas that we've been able to grow with them, which is just an interesting anecdote, is in the area of election security. And so one of the things we did through our training program was to train those individuals to be a part of securing elections. And up to 2020, the last election, Cyber Defenses was able to provide election security to every county in Texas and to about 12% of the counties nationwide. And those apprentices that were registered apprentices have actually played an extremely key role in securing elections in Texas. And all of that traces back to this program that we were able to do with the support of the TWC to provide really critical security training, to take folks that actually knew nothing about IT, give them the skills that they need, put them into great cybersecurity jobs, and then not only have them help clients, in the commercial sector, but actually help everybody with our ability to help elections. So overall, the program itself, if you're interested in the types of things it can help fund, it was really broad in its ability to help us. We were able to help with generating new curriculum, with using new tools, with the purchasing of equipment. And so, that gave us a lot of ability to make the adjustments we needed to make throughout the program. We definitely, throughout the course of the program, we invested far more than even the additional $47K that Jenna talked about, because the need was great and our ability to deliver needed to be larger still. But it was a really important grant at a time when it really helped our organization. So, those are kind of the overview of how we worked with the grant. We can't say thanks enough to all the organizations that helped us put that together. We were able to do a very public graduation ceremony, including many members of the Texas Department of Information Resources and the Secretary of State's office, as well as TWC and the Department of Labor. So that was a great program to give us, a little more visibility, as well as to celebrate the success of that program. So I think those are the primary points. I'm happy to stick around for questions if there's more.
Thank you, Damon and Jenna. Gosh, that was an amazing project, and I really enjoyed working on that. We are getting close to we are actually at the end of our time. I've got one question that I received through the question and answers. In our manufacturing sector, when we work with them on possible apprenticeships, we continue to deal with the issue of liability insurance for anyone under 18. Anything at the state level that can help with that. Ken, there are some help, and what I will do is I'll follow up with you. I believe that there is some give for that. And in fact, I would suggest that you ask our next panelist. But before I do that, is there job placement requirement and minimum employment timeline with these grants? Yes, there is. With some of the grants, with the high demand and tip, there is not, but there is an expectation of it. Now, on the Ken Becker's question on the manufacturing sector regarding apprenticeships, our next session coming up next is the Registered Apprenticeship Scaling Up. Our speakers, Ann Pham, the apprenticeship specialist of the Texas Workforce Office of Apprenticeship. Come back after break to hear what's new in apprenticeship world and learn how apprenticeships are helping employers train their workforce. I want to thank everyone that participated today. Again, thank my hat and my gratitude to Carlton, Martin, Aaron, Christine, Amy, Jenna, Damon, and to Seth for helping, and Amy and John, Paul, and of course, my good friend, Kevin Brown. Thank you all for participating, and we'll take a short break and we will return at 10:40. Thank you all.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I hope everyone can hear me. So I want to just say a quick thanks to everyone for having me here today. I really did enjoy listening and learning about all the new innovative ways the OEI team has pivoted to accommodate and meet employer needs. Like yesterday, Chairman Daniel mentioned how the OEI team reprogrammed funds to assist with COVID-19 pandemic and are streamlining their skills application to expedite their processes. And not only that, I've seen that they've added several new staff this year. And it reminds me, the OEI team reminds me of the characters in a book I read many moons ago called Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. And those of you who may have not read the book, it's a very light-hearted story of 4 different characters: Sniff, Scurry, Hem, and Haw, as they try and search, find, lose, and rediscover their favorite food, which is cheese, of course. Everything is fine until one day someone moved their cheese. And at the core of the story is about change. Change happens. Anticipate it, adapt to it, learn it, embrace and enjoy it. And that's what the OEI team has done, quite frankly. And also to all the attendees who are on this amazing conference. The sheer fact that you're attending this two-part virtual conference when you'd normally be in a hotel ballroom means that you are adapting. So I am excited to be here today because as a collective, we're bringing immense positive change to Texans. And today I have the pleasure of giving you a quick update on what's new in the apprenticeship world and how apprenticeships continue to help employers skill up their workforce. And additionally, I'll touch on how apprenticeships can help you as an entity and share a funding opportunity we recently announced. Then I'll close out the session with resources you can use, and then we should have time for a few questions. So, oh great, that's already on the next slide. So my name is Ann Pham, and I have the honor and the privilege of representing our TWC Office of Apprenticeship. I serve as the lead business engagement specialist. So what does that mean? It means that I engage with employers, educational training providers, chambers, EDCs, and other entities who are interested in becoming a registered apprenticeship program or expanding their existing program. And I was trained by DOL to understand the apprenticeship standards and their documents. I'd like to mention that our TWC Office of Apprenticeship works in partnership and collaboration with the DOL Office of Apprenticeship, and we are deeply grateful for their continued support. Now, I work with a wonderful team. They are my colleagues. They are extremely talented, bright, and dedicated to their profession. So I'd like to introduce them to you. So can we go to the next slide, please? Our apprenticeship team, or A team, as we like to call ourselves, includes our director, Desi Holmes. And for the rest of the A team, we are called apprenticeship specialists. Collectively, our team is responsible for establishing new and expanding registered apprenticeship programs statewide, including developing the plans, policies, procedures, standards, and guidelines for registered apprenticeships. Additionally, we have a grant manager who administers all contracts and grants related to apprenticeships. So we have George McIntyre, Tara Cole, Alicia Boyd, Kimberly Patterson, and myself. And I'd like to make a quick announcement. We're expanding our team. We posted a new job opportunity for a contract specialist to join us. So if you or anyone you know who may be interested in this position, please go to Work in Texas and apply there. And if you have any questions about apprenticeships or would like to contact us at any time, please send us an email at apprenticeshiptexas.twc.state.tx.us. Did you get all the dots? There's a lot of dots. So anyway, it's posted there on the slide deck and you can jot it down. Next slide, please. So what is registered apprenticeship? Registered apprenticeship is a career pathway where individuals can learn and earn at the same time. It includes a paid job where you earn a competitive wage from day one, plus an education where you gain knowledge with structured learning and on-the-job training, which results in an industry-recognized credential. It truly is a proven workforce solution where employers use to skill up their employees. Registered apprenticeships have a proven track record of producing strong results for both the employers and employees. According to DOL, 94% of registered apprentices are employed upon completion of their apprenticeship. And for every dollar employers spend, they receive $1.47 on return on investment. And currently we have 546 active programs in Texas. and we dipped slightly below 20,000 active apprentices. Now, prior to the COVID pandemic, we were well over 21,000 active apprentices, but we also expect that number to change and to grow in the near future. Another development we had this year is that we had a funding opportunity that allowed not only local workforce development boards, but also community colleges, technical colleges to apply for funds to support capacity building through the development of apprenticeship navigators. Now, these navigators are an extension of us, and they will promote apprenticeship as an effective tool for developing a workforce. 6 areas were awarded an Apprenticeship Texas expansion grant. And they were Austin, Houston, Corsicana, Arlington, El Paso, and McAllen. These navigators will be mentored in the fundamental foundation for getting an apprenticeship program started and will serve as a key point of contact to assist future partners throughout the process from conception to implementation. Next slide, please. So where has registered apprenticeship then and now? How has it changed and how has it remained the same? So historically, the construction industry has been the foundation of registered apprenticeships for over 80 years. And while construction and manufacturing are still strong industries, we're seeing a huge diverse range of industries adopting the apprenticeship model. So in our last panel, we just heard about cybersecurity defenses. What an amazing occupation. So some of the industries that are now transitioning is healthcare, information technology, transportation, financial services, and telecommunications. Employers are choosing this tried and true proven strategy of workforce development via the workforce apprenticeship system. And we're seeing continual growth because employers have an aging workforce and need to replace these individuals. And as new innovations and technology require new skill sets, these employers are constantly and continually upskilling their workforce. We've seen a lot of growth in registered apprenticeship across the state. Yesterday, we heard about Tesla and the new Giga factory they're building in Austin. They are a registered apprenticeship program. Bombardier, a Canadian-owned advanced manufacturer in the aerospace industry, recently got registered and will be bringing over 100 of jobs to Red Oak, Texas. Freshpet, a pet manufacturing, is constructing a multi-million-dollar facility in Ennis, Texas, which is expected to create over 400 new jobs. They just submitted their application to become a registered apprenticeship program. And then the Texas A&M Operations Center in Bryan just started a cybersecurity support technician apprenticeship. So as you can see, we're now adopting apprenticeship programs across a wide and diverse occupations and industries. And according to DOL, since 2017, Texas has grown its active apprenticeship numbers. And I just mentioned from 12,000 to almost 20,000. A significant factor in this growth pattern and the development of this is that we have one workforce system. We have built that within our state and with our partners. This type of significant change just doesn't happen overnight. We attribute this success due to many factors, one of which is that TWC has a great executive team and many directors who see and understand the value of apprenticeships. Additionally, we have Chairman Brian Daniel, who is our commissioner representing the public, Aaron Demerson, our commissioner representing employers, and Julian Alvarez, our commissioner representing labor, who provides us with unwavering support. And Commissioner Alvarez is our apprenticeship champion, and it is with his leadership and vision that continues to help us drive that growth in our state. So we want to pause and say thank you to Commissioner Alvarez. So next slide, please. So what's in it for you? Colleges are more than educators. They can also be apprenticeship intermediaries. And obviously they provide the much needed and required related technical instruction for apprentices, but they also provide that didactic curriculum, the courses and modules that are required for all registered apprenticeship programs. So they are a natural fit for apprenticeships and boards. Many of you may not know this, but I am a recovering board staff. I was the principal industry liaison for the Gulf Coast Workforce Board for many years before joining TWC. And I understand the need to meet performance metrics, provide employer services, and be that labor exchange for job seekers. Apprenticeship is just another great tool for your toolbox as you help people get jobs, keep jobs, or get better jobs. Next slide, please. EDCs and chambers. And most EDCs and chambers that I have engaged with focus on how they can increase economic impact, increase business retention, attract new businesses, which hopefully will increase the tax base in the long run. And apprenticeships are a workforce development tool that can help EDCs and chambers to reach these goals and milestones. One of the fundamental tenets of SBAs is to help provide capital for existing and emerging businesses. Using apprenticeships as a resource to help these businesses expand or build their companies is a great way to ensure that the businesses stay viable and has the sustainable means to thrive. Next slide, please. Oh, our favorite topic, funding opportunities. So TWC recently announced the availability of $10 million in Apprenticeship Texas expansion grants to support efforts that model engagement strategies among identified occupations, industry-led employers, and education and training institutes. In providing this funding opportunity, we are casting a wider range of eligible applicants, specifically local consortia. We are allowing for regional collaboration and opportunities to identify and address common community issues, challenges, and needs. TWC will make awards to consortia first, and individual applicants will be awarded with remaining funds. Awards will range between $500,000 to $2 million. The eligible applicants are local workforce development boards, community and or technical colleges, or a consortia, which is defined as a collaboration between a board and one or more community and or technical colleges. This grant program will support apprenticeship expansion through the establishment or the continuation of an apprenticeship navigator. It will also increase the number of new apprentices, establish new registered apprenticeship programs, and expand existing registered apprenticeship programs, either by adding new occupations or adding new apprentices. Now, since the $10 million of Apprenticeship Texas expansion grant is an active RFA, I cannot answer any questions about it. However, I do encourage eligible applicants to read the announcement on Texas Smart Buy. And if you need assistance finding that announcement, feel free to send us an email at apprenticeshiptexas@twc.state.tx.us, and then we'll send you the RFA posting. I do also want to remind everyone that the application close date is January 2021. Now, while it's still in development, we are planning to announce several additional funding opportunities next year, which will be focusing on IT-related occupations and industries, along with a pre-apprenticeship announcement. Next slide, please. So DOL offers great marketing materials and collateral. There are several quick start toolkits and a very comprehensive search engine to locate registered apprenticeship programs in any state. And just go to apprenticeship.gov. And DOL just recently launched a campaign called Discover Apprenticeship to raise awareness of the benefits of registered apprenticeships and increase participation by business leaders and job seekers nationwide. And for more information about statewide apprenticeships, please visit our website at apprenticeshiptexas.com. for more information on how to become an apprenticeship program, there are some tools and resources listed on our webpage. And then you can also listen to past webinars and town halls that we've hosted. And the last tool that I want to share with you is called My Next Move. This site is a wonderful tool for educators, students, and job seekers who are interested in learning more about specific occupations, what the skill sets and education are required, and what the typical and/or average wages scales are for those occupations. And last but not least, you can always contact us at Apprenticeship Texas at twc.state.tx.us. Next slide, please. So now we have a few minutes for questions. I'm going to ask Matt to assist me, and if there were any questions that may have come in during the session. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Ann, great job. We did have a couple questions come in. So the first one is there a difference between the US DOL apprenticeship and state-run apprenticeship programs?
So for us, for the state of Texas, they are one and the same.
Perfect.
What we do, as I mentioned earlier, that we work in collaboration with our Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship. So what that means is that the federal government has designated Texas as an OA state, which is an Office of Apprenticeship. That means that we as TWC employees, we can help the individual businesses or interested parties to become a registered apprenticeship. We can help develop those application documents with them, walk them through the requirements, explain any definitions that they may not understand. And then what we will do is we would hand that application over to DOL. So in our state, only the Department of Labor has the authority to certify and approve registered apprenticeship programs.
Great. The next one is, can the consortium be with a local board or a different entity than a college?
It can be with a local board, but I would have to refrain from asking, well, it can be with a board, and any other questions, I'd have to say that we have a contract specialist and an RFA person to answer those questions.
Got it. And one last question, Ann, who operates the apprenticeship programs?
Oh, that's a great question. So every apprenticeship program has a sponsor, and the sponsor is responsible for the overall operation of that program. Now, the sponsors can be a single business or a consortium of businesses, and they can also be a range of workforce intermediaries, including an industry association or a joint labor management organization. Certainly community colleges can serve as a sponsor. But regardless of who serves as that sponsor, Matt, apprenticeships are always employer driven, and employers are involved throughout that process.
Got it. Can apprentices earn college credit while participating in an apprenticeship program?
The short answer is yes, it's very possible. So apprenticeship opportunities combine on-the-job training and job-related instruction, which can be provided by apprenticeship training centers, technical schools, community colleges. Apprenticeship sponsors often work directly with 2- and 4-year colleges to structure that program so that those apprentices can earn college credits.
Awesome. And Ann, it looks like we have one last question. For these apprenticeship programs, how long do they typically last?
The length of an apprenticeship program depends on that complexity of that occupation and that type of program model that the program sponsor chooses. Apprenticeship programs can range in length between 1 to 5 years. Many occupations have 1- and 2-year apprenticeships, such as like the emergency medical technician or a medical billing coder occupation, or maybe even a home healthcare aide. Those are some occupations that are shorter in duration, Matt.
Sorry, Ann, it looks like we had another question come in, and I don't want to bump too much into the RFA, so you let me know. Can the consortiums include local unions?
Okay, I am going to defer that to the RFA team. I will get my hand slapped if I answer those.
Okay, perfect. Well, Anne, great job. I think that's all the questions we have at the moment.
Yeah, what I'm going to do though, is I'm going to actually post after this session is post in the chat box a link to the RFA so that anyone who's interested may go directly to that link. Also on that link is our contact information. There is a person from the RFA team. If you have very specific questions, please send those questions only to that RFA contact person. So I think we're almost right at our time. We might be finishing a couple of minutes early. But in closing, I really want to say thank you to the OEI team for including me, for having me today. And then thank you for attending, everyone out there for attending today's session. I also want to make a plug for Michael Britt. Please be sure to come back after the break to hear from Michael Britt as he gives us a legislative update. And that will conclude it. I will give you a couple of minutes back on your time so you can have a longer coffee break.
Good morning and welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your break. So now we'll go into the legislative updates with Michael Britt, who is the Texas Workforce Commission Director of Governmental Relations. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michael. Michael?
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. As Muriel mentioned, I'm Michael Britt. I'm the Director of Governmental Relations at the Texas Workforce Commission. And I was going to take a few minutes and give everyone an update on where we are, both actions at the federal level and then what we are seeing upcoming for the 87th Texas legislative session. Federally, actually, today is a big day. Current federal funding expires at midnight tonight, and congressional leaders have been working to pass a 1-week continuing resolution for funding to give them extra time to work out details of a larger omnibus funding bill that would fund the federal government through the end of this current fiscal year. Congressional leaders have been saying publicly that they would like to include the next round of COVID-19 relief with the omnibus spending package. Congressional leaders are still working on an agreement as to what would be included both in the omnibus funding bill and potential COVID-19 relief. And there have been reports over the last week or 10 days of several different frameworks, if you will, of COVID-19 relief legislation. And while those have been put out there, there have not been any agreements announced or released or any legislative language. We have heard that the next round of COVID-19 relief legislation could include things such as an extension of the federally funded unemployment insurance benefits that have been passed under the CARES Act. Also, potentially additional funding for the payroll protection program, increased funding for childcare, as well as investments in transportation like airlines, airports, Amtrak, those type items. But again, I do want to stress that at this point, these are just things that have been proposed. There have not been any official agreements or even legislative language of potential COVID-19 legislation put forward. Also, kind of complicating things on the federal funding side, the U.S. House passed the continuing resolution yesterday, and the Senate is supposed to do that today. What has popped up this morning is that there are some senators that are at the moment blocking the continuing resolution. So there is now a possibility in true 2020 fashion that we could have a government shutdown at midnight tonight. Again, we've still got about another 12 hours to see what the Senate will do.
but we are watching that very closely now, because whereas before this continuing resolution was expected to pass right through and give Congress another week to work on federal government funding, we now this morning have the potential that we could see a government shutdown at midnight tonight. And we would just have to kind of wait and see what happens there. Switching gears to the upcoming 87th Texas legislative session, kind of starting with what session will look like, and the simple answer there is we're not quite sure yet. Obviously, as the legislative leaders contemplate a legislative session in keeping in mind COVID-19 and COVID-19 protocols, there's a lot of unknowns going into the next session, and there will definitely be a lot of changes. First and foremost, we're going to have a new Speaker of the House, Representative Dade Phelan from the Beaumont area, is the presumptive new Speaker of the Texas House. So first and foremost, with a new Speaker of the House, we could see changes in House committee chairs, as well as the jurisdiction of each of the committees. As I kind of mentioned at the beginning, the biggest question we have going into the next session is what exactly session will look like. And like I said, the short answer is we don't know. For any of you that pay attention to the news, I know there's been reports kind of leaking out about possibilities as to what the session could look like, but nothing official in terms of protocols or schedules have been announced by either house. We're still waiting to see how the legislative committees will conduct their work, or even how often they'll meet. There have been rumors that the committees may only meet every other week, at least for the first 2 months of session, and then kind of seeing what happens with COVID-19 numbers and also vaccine distribution, for them to reassess somewhere around the March-April time frame. One thing that these discussions have brought to the forefront is the very real possibility that there will be a reduced workload in the legislative committees on both the House and the Senate side. If they are meeting less frequently, that will mean less legislation, fewer bills that can pass through the committees. And so all of this is just adding up to a very uncertain start to this session. And in fact, many members we've seen have even yet to file bills for the legislative session. And what we're hearing is that is because they're waiting to see what the protocols are, and to see if they're, to gauge their legislative packages and workloads based on what they expect the committee workloads to be. And so, like I said, we're continuing to keep eyes on this, and we know that both on the House and Senate side, the leadership is working on that and working with the membership, but right now we just don't have a lot of answers, and likely won't until we get to either right before session or in the first couple of days. With all of that being said, obviously this is also going to be a very tough budget year for the Texas legislature. The economic impact of COVID-19, as well as the downturn in the price of oil and gas, have certainly had effects on the Texas economy. As part of the budget situation, all state agencies were required to submit their legislative appropriations request with a 5% reduction in GR funding. For TWC, this required us to achieve a 20.1 million baseline appropriations reduction. And included in that reduction was a $2.4 million reduction in the requested funding for the Skills Development Fund. Given TWC's budget being 84% federal funding, our options for general revenue reductions were quite limited. That obviously was not the only reduction, but obviously an important one. And also an important note that TWC did decide we are not seeking any exceptional items to request the restoration of our proposed budget reductions that we use to achieve the 5% baseline reduction. And this, I also kind of want to highlight with the budget issue that given the budget constraints this year, one thing we will be, keeping an eye on is that the Skills Development Fund in general will certainly be looked upon as a source of general revenue for a lot of priorities. With the state looking to recover economically from the pandemic, there is already a lot of interest and a lot of discussion around workforce training, and it is likely that there will be legislation to either expand the use of the Skills Development Fund or to make other changes to utilize that funding for those workforce training initiatives that are brought forward by the legislators. At the moment, there haven't been any bills filed to do this, but this is one of the issues that we will be watching closely during the session. As I mentioned, because with the discussion around workforce training, that seems a likely, a likely strategy for legislation. Regarding the JET program, that's another one that we think will probably be looked upon for expansion to help bolster the focus on workforce training and the recovery from COVID-19. At the moment, there has been one bill filed that would expand the use of the JET program, and that's House Bill 618 by Representative Harold Dutton out of Houston. And what that bill would do would be to add open enrollment charter schools to the list of eligible grantees under the JET program. At this point, that kind of concludes my update. Like I said, there's very much more that we don't know than what we do know going into the next session. And so at this point, I would go ahead and open it up if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask, and I will do my best to answer those.
Oh, Mario, you're muted.
Would help to unmute. As I was saying, thank you so much, Michael, for providing that update for us. You mentioned the general revenue funding, JR funding, and skills development. And are there other TWC programs that are funded through that funding source?
I'm sorry, funded through the skills development program or
through general revenue?
The skills development program and the JET program are our two programs that are solely funded by general revenue. The vast majority of the remainder of our general revenue funding is match and maintenance of effort to draw down federal funds. And so that's why when it comes to the budget reductions, that those programs unfortunately become into that conversation, because there's only so many places that TWC with the degree of federal funding we have that we have to get general revenue from.
Okay. And is there a consideration to the use of development for high school at-risk non-CTE students not going to college?
We have seen legislation, to that. There was a bill similar to that last session. Like I said, at the moment, there hasn't been any legislation like that proposed, but I would say I think we'll probably see it coming. Like I said, a lot of members have yet to even file a single bill because they're quite honestly waiting to see how many bills they can realistically see passed. And so I think, for a lot of these members, the bills may be waiting to be filed, but we just haven't seen them yet. I can tell you, I haven't heard of any legislation yet, but specific. But I would say I think that and others, likely stuff that are being discussed right now. We're just waiting to see what actually gets filed.
Okay. And there is another question. It says, have committee assignments been made?
Sure. So the short answer is no. How committee assignments work in the House is that once the House convenes on and sorry, I failed to mention this. The legislature convenes on Tuesday, January the 12th at noon. When the House convenes on the 12th, they will first elect the speaker, and then they will debate the rules, and they will establish the committees that they have. And like I said, we could see some changes, both in committee jurisdiction, or even, they may constitute new committees. Once that happens, the speaker generally gives the House members about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, to submit what preference cards on the committees they would like to serve on, and then the speaker will make those assignments. Typically, we see committee assignments happen anywhere between the last week of January at the earliest, and then the beginning to middle of February at the latest. On the Senate side, things are a little more known, because the entire Senate is was not up for election, and the lieutenant governor obviously is carrying over, and he has that power in the Senate. The Senate committees generally won't change much. The lieutenant governor will make a few tweaks here and there, typically, to set the committee membership among the existing members, and then come January 12th, when the new senators are sworn in, they will then be assigned to committees by the lieutenant governor. So from the Senate standpoint, those committees are pretty much set, except for the members who are departing the Senate and the new ones coming in. But for the House, we won't know who those members are till, like I said, end of January, middle of February.
Okay. And then going back a little bit, you did talk about the possibility of a government shutdown. What would that look like for TWC programs that are funded through federal funds?
So, typically, when there is a short-term federal government shutdown, the way this tends to operate is, with the balances we draw down, we're generally pretty good for short term. It's really the long-term shutdowns that could potentially have problems. And I will say that in terms of discussions around this, this really is kind of a late breaking development as of started about 8 o'clock this morning. So it wasn't something that had been discussed, for this particular instance before that, because as I mentioned, it seemed Congress was well on the road to passing the short-term continuing resolution to get to the larger budget agreement. But the agency does have protocols in place for this. This isn't the first time. As many of you know, this isn't the first time we've had a government shutdown, especially not even in the last few years. And so, we do have processes in place to use the existing balances to keep programs operational until government funding gets worked out. And like I said, I wish I had more to give on this scenario. It like I said, it just popped up. But a government shutdown could be as short as over the weekend, where it really doesn't matter, or could last a little longer if an agreement has failed to be reached on the short-term resolution. Then they may just continue with their negotiations on the longer-term funding, and then just have a shutdown until that happens. But there's also still the possibility that these issues get resolved and the continuing resolution be passed by midnight, in which case we would not have the government shutdown.
Okay, great. Good to hear. I do have 4 more questions. The next one is, during this legislative process or the sessions, is there any way that the community can assist or be involved, either before, during, or after the legislative sessions take place?
Sure. So during the session, that involvement, obviously one of the most direct ways anyone can be involved is providing input to their legislators, either through direct outreach or testifying on legislation of interest to them. I would offer a caveat there, in that one of the things being discussed by leadership of both chambers is exactly how public input will be received this session. for any of you that have participated in a legislative hearing or been to the Capitol during a legislative session, you know the Capitol is a quite crowded place during session. And with COVID-19, that is one of the things they're looking to address, is how do they allow public participation while maintaining health safety. And so, we're really not sure yet what that will look like. There have been rumors, and they are only rumors, that if the public is going to testify, they may have to have a COVID test or the vaccine, or they may have to do it, via video through one spot in the Capitol. I mean, we really don't know. We have had assurances, there have been statements that the public will be able to continue to provide input, because that is, a major part of the legislative process. But exactly how that will look, we don't know. One thing that does seem to be emerging is clear is that what we consider the lobby days, the association days, or the county days, where groups would come in and have big events at the Capitol, likely will not be allowed this session due to COVID-19 restrictions. So, this really is going to, this is going to be uncharted territory for everybody. But I would say, if you are tracking issues that, you have interest in and want to provide input, providing that to your elected officials is always the best route. Just the manner in which that feedback is provided this session will probably will be different than we have in previous sessions.
Great, thank you. So one last question. If there is some legislation that is going to impact TWC and there's concern about it, would a community member contact you or someone within your department?
Certainly, I would say if anybody has concerns, one thing I have to caveat is that as a state agency, as government employees, myself, my staff, and everybody who works for TWC, we cannot advocate for or against any piece of legislation. We have to, as we say, we educate, we don't advocate. So when we are providing, as the agency, information to the legislators, legislators, we always provide information as to the cause and effect of a particular piece of legislation. If, for any feedback that would fall into the category of advocacy, we cannot participate in that as government employees. And so I would encourage anyone that, if you have feedback of that type, either through any of the associations you work with, or reach out to the legislators directly, because private citizens certainly have the, in private business, things like that certainly have the ability and the right to advocate for or against, but we can't as the agency. So I just always like to add that caveat to our activities, just so that everybody, always understands kind of the position that we are coming from as TWC.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming in and giving us these updates. Is there any last items you'd like to add?
No, that's all I have, and thank you all very much for your time and attention. And as you mentioned, always, if there's ever anything I can do or ever any information I can provide, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact me.
Great, Michael. Thank you so much. Thank
you
for joining us. Please come back for our next session. After the break will be AEL, so Adult Education and Literacy, Speeding Pathways to Careers, and that will be at noon. So please join us. Mahalia Baldini, who is the director of AEL, will be the moderator for that session. We'll see you after the break. Thanks.
Folks, my name is Pradip Mahale, one of the team member of the Office of Employer Initiative. And today it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Mahaya Baldini. She has served as the AEL State Director since July of 2020, but served as the program supervisor for 6 years prior. She has a background in workforce development and adult education and has worked at the Texas Workforce Commission for over 10 years. Today, Ms. Mahaya will talk about speeding pathways to careers. So with that, Ms. Mahaya, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm going to attempt to share my screen. And Prati, if you'll give me permissions, I will get my PowerPoint pulled up here.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so hopefully you guys are seeing my PowerPoint. And I wanted to thank everybody just for joining us today. Prati, what are you seeing out there? Just to make sure.
I am seeing only Michael Britt's screen.
Okay.
So do you want me to? Okay, so you are sharing your screen?
If you want to share yours, that may help. Let me try it one more time. Okay, what are you seeing now?
Okay, you're okay. You're good to go.
All right, great. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'm thrilled to be here today to share with you some of the things that are happening in adult education and literacy here at TWC. I am actually going to stop my video just so I have a little bit more bandwidth here as we move through the presentation. You'll notice here at the very top, I do have a find a program near you. And I'm putting that here at the forefront because as we move through today's session, if you think, well, how do I find these programs? There's a link right there for you here at the top of the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you just a second. I hate to interrupt. I need you to go ahead and play your PowerPoint. Right now, we're just seeing it in the PowerPoint. It's not playing the show. So if you want to click on play from beginning, there you go.
Technical difficulties. So are you guys, what screen are you on, Prati?
I'm on the first screen, speeding pathways to career.
Perfect. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Oh, okay. So I'm not in your slide at the moment, but okay. Okay. Let me.
Mahalia, if you just want to push from beginning, are you not, there you go. I see you clicking on it. There you go. You're all set now.
Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to talk a little bit about the AEL system in general. So our system is very large. So we do a statewide multi-year grant. We have a statewide competition about every 5 years or so. And that statewide competition is what gets us that local level partnerships and those local level providers that you have in your communities. Right now, that's largely consisted of a consortia within those local communities, and it can consist of community colleges. We have 4 workforce boards that are direct grantees with us. We have 2 nonprofits. We have several educational service centers, and then several ISDs. So it's kind of a mixture of what we have available out there and sort of who our grantees are. This is an over $80 million investment that we make annually to adult education and literacy services. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about what those services are. We serve around 80,000 students and individuals within those services annually. And because of WIOA, and for those of you that don't know what WIOA is, it's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And we are sort of nestled within that statute under Title II, which is adult education. And under WIOA, we have a very specific focus on post-secondary enrollment and then focus on employer engagement for all of our students that enter into our program. So when we're talking about our students and sort of who is our customer, what I love about AEL and what I feel is what makes it sort of a keystone program within the agency is really who we serve. It's very broad, and it's allows us to really focus on the Texans, I think, that are most in need. So we serve individuals that either have a high school diploma or do not have a high school diploma. We also serve individuals that may be language deficient. So your ESL individuals that need language skills, and that can include those who are maybe illiterate in their home and native languages, but also those that are very highly skilled in their home languages, and highly skilled in their home countries in terms of technical skills or credentials that they have obtained, but they lack the language fluency to really be successful in the employment marketplace in the US. So it's very broad. You can kind of see here anyone that basically would fall below this 12th grade reading, writing, math level would really qualify for AEL services. So we are very broad, I think, in terms of who we serve. And I want to talk a little bit about why we serve them and what are some of the goals that the participants coming into our program really have when they come to us. So some of the goals, as you can see here, becoming illiterate and obtain knowledge and skills necessary for employment or economic self-sufficiency. Of course, obtain your high school equivalency if you don't currently have one, just to be more competitive, again, in the employment marketplace, or to align your goals to your post-secondary options. We do a high school equivalency attainment. And right now, we actually have a high school equivalency voucher program that we have initiated that provides free vouchers to individuals that want to come through our services and into our program. We have that available as well. So that's a great sort of incentive for individuals out there within your employment industries, or those that are looking to go to college, but maybe need that high school equivalency. Now's the time. We've got money out there in the communities to support individuals with that goal. We also have participate in post-secondary education and training. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about what is an integrated education and training program, because that is something that's very specific in the statute that we're required to do. And I want to kind of give some information about what does that really mean, because, programs and especially education, we love our acronyms. So I want to make sure that I can kind of touch on that and what that really looks like from a service delivery perspective in your communities. And then the big one, enter or advance in employment, including preparing for unsubsidized employment, but focusing on in-demand industries and occupations that really lead to that economic self-sufficiency. So we're trying to create those career ladders and those career pathways for individuals that maybe at their current state or where they currently are academically are passed over for those higher skilled jobs. They need that sort of educational support or certificate or degree to be eligible for those positions. We really have a statewide need. So how do we really speed Texans into targeted and high demand jobs and industries? It's not a new conundrum for any of us. This is something that's sort of always been there, and many of the programs that we operate here at TWC are really to serve this population of individuals with low basic skills. So how do we really do this? And particularly with AEL, we want to look at individuals and support individuals that may have low basic skills, or that lack their high school diploma or an equivalent, or perhaps those that are just non-native speakers, to get the academic remediation that they need, coupled with perhaps a workforce training. And I put in here workforce training with entry and exit points. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about that IET and what do we really mean about offering training through adult education and literacy that includes entry and exit points back into the employment marketplace. And work readiness. This is a big one for employers, and this is something that all of our programs have available and can offer, which is really the soft skills. And then what does that mean when they sort of leave us? What's the next step? Well, we want to prepare all of our participants for those next stages and those longer term goals. which oftentimes include continued education and employment pathways, maybe perhaps in an industry where they currently work, but they really just don't have the credentials, or they don't have the degree necessary to apply for and advance in those higher skilled positions. And I can see there's probably some questions coming in. I will save time at the end for some questions as well. So when we're talking about really pathways for our participants and what is the ultimate goal for AEL, all of our participants come in the program, they fit somewhere, right? The whole purpose of AEL, it's not just about obtaining the high school diploma. It's about you're obtaining your high school diploma for what purpose? What is the goal that is connected to that attainment? And oftentimes it's either I want to go to college or I want to advance in my career in the industry that I'm in because I love it. Well, those are all great, and we want to be able to support that. What we know is the participants that are coming into our program are coming into it at very different levels. But we've created and designed a program that regardless of where the participant is at when they come to us, our goal is always to help them with that career ladder and help them in that advancement. So we offer everything from a basic bridge program all the way up to entry-level skilled jobs, industry recognized certificate programs, and even those level one sort of coveted certificates that really get individuals into middle skilled jobs. We know we have a lot of vacancies out there for middle skilled jobs, and we want to make sure that all the Texans that we have are getting the necessary education and the necessary skills that they need to be, very competitive in that marketplace. So earlier I had talked about integrated education and training. And I wanted to give you guys and kind of leave this with you as sort of what does that really look like and what does that really mean? So I wanted, sometimes the best way I think to do that is just to take something that's just very specific and sort of outline it in a very specific way. It kind of helps to visualize what that pathway could look like for a student. And this is sort of what we think of in AEL when we think about a career pathway for an AEL student. So you can see here, this is sort of the HVAC career pathway or the HVAC educational ladder, if you would. At the very basic of that and sort of an entry level opportunity for a student is to get that maintenance repair tech certification, right? It includes the OSA and some industry recognized credentials, and they would take a couple of courses. But while they are taking those courses from a training perspective, they're also going to be getting these contextualized academic support. And the reason why the contextualized academic support is so important is because the goal for the student is to be able to stand alone in a college setting and not need remediation. We don't want folks in developmental ed. That creates student debt. Which lowers their self-sufficiency when they're trying to support their family because they're busy paying off student loans. So what we want to be able to do is to make sure that that individual is college ready so that they are ready to go into credit-bearing courses when they leave our program. But they're also going to have an industry recognized certification that's going to allow them to earn a wage while completing and going to that sort of next phase within their academic career. So we may start and we may offer that IET there at that beginning certificate level, but we also want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence with our participants to make sure they know what that career ladder looks like and what it's going to take. So you can see here that this is just a way for us to kind of make that trajectory for the student and supporting them as much as we can until hopefully they no longer need us, because that's always the goal. The goal in AEL and many of our programs is to create that sufficiency with the student so they don't need us anymore. We're trying to work ourselves out of a job. So that is sort of the rundown of some of the just one part of the services that we provide in adult education, even though it's a very important part. And if it feels like I'm rushing through this, well, I am, because 30 minutes is not nearly enough time for me to talk about all the things that I want to talk about with you guys. But we're here for you. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always reach out to us. So I want to kind of transition into how do we really help each other? How do we help each other to sort of create these speeded pathways for students here in Texas? And the big one is always awareness and referrals. It's why I really enjoy doing these sessions and these presentations, because it gets everybody sort of thinking about how does this apply to me and how can I utilize this program just to support something that maybe an objective that you have there locally, whether you're an employer or, a community college that's looking to maybe look at, the way things that are currently operating within your systems. It's always good to kind of get the information out there to create that awareness. So what we really see in AEL is we have, populations that we feel like those are real candidates for us. And we want to support those candidates in creating, again, this pathway for them. So you can see here that we've got a lot of eligible students. And when I'm thinking eligible students in Texas, I'm thinking where are the students that are sort of those lower basic skills or even medium basic skills, but just are not college ready, or individuals that are low skilled and they're employed, but maybe they're lacking their high school diploma, and that high school diploma or that industry recognized certificate is really needed and required for advancement within the industry that they are currently working in. And that's how we sort of help each other. I think from an employer's perspective, when was the last time you really looked into, your employees to say how many of them may qualify in one of these areas? The high skilled limited English proficient, as you can see on here, we call those internationally trained professionals. And I talked about it a little bit earlier, but the internationally trained professionals, again, they're degreed oftentimes in their home countries. They're highly skilled, but they don't have the language skill that they need to really be successful and competitive a lot of times in certain industries. And we want to make sure that we are recruiting and letting those individuals know that, we can help with the language part to create, an advancement opportunity for them. Recent dropouts, that's very common, right? That's sort of, I think, when people think of AEL in Texas, that's one of the first things that comes to mind. Oh yeah, that's the GED program. We get that a lot, but we do a lot more than GED or high school equivalency. We also work with low skilled employed that maybe already have their high school diploma, but they need that certification. Again, going back to that integrated education and training model. So there's a lot of opportunity, and we have a lot of very specific programs for specific populations that we serve. And we want to create that awareness in our communities that we're open for business, even under the pandemic. So how can we help? How can AEL help employers? How can we help community colleges? For the employer side of things, we do work-based learning. This can be a class that's on site at your place of business. It can include things like skill upgrading, but also digital literacy. And then those coveted sort of soft skills that employers really are looking and need from their employees to kind of have and be able to communicate effectively, conflict resolution. We do the soft skills as well as part of our work readiness requirements for our grantees. For the community college, TSI prep, right? Creating a transitional or a bridge program for individuals that may need preparatory services before they're really ready for that college placement. Skills Development Fund, you've been hearing probably about this yesterday and today about the Skills Development Fund. We align our AEL basic support for those entry and mid-level employees that may not be eligible for training because they're lacking that basic skills requirement, that academic level to be successful in that training. We can help to remediate that. So before we sort of close out today, I want to make sure that I talk about some of the special initiatives that we have. These are initiatives that are approved by our commission. Our commissioners are great partners for us. They're great supporters for the work that we do here in adult education and literacy. And they approve funding for things sort of outside of that regular core grant that we have. These are in addition to that. And these are special initiatives. Accelerate Texas is one of them. Ability to Benefit is another. So for Accelerate Texas, the commission has approved over $12 million since 2016, again, to support those lower skilled Texans in targeted industries. So how do we really get the population in the door, remediate those academic needs, along with some workforce training, and create an entry point into an industry that they will be very successful in an industry that needs skilled workers. And then the Ability to Benefit, we've put $1.5 million since 2016 into Ability to Benefit. And this is specifically for those who lack a high school diploma, who are co-enrolled in college and career pathways. So while they're also getting their high school diploma, they're co-enrolled into college classes. So it's sort of a simultaneous partnership between the high school equivalency program while the student is earning that college credit. Now, I would be remiss, and I'm going to take every opportunity that I can to talk about, well, when's the next round, right? So we've got this money that's going to be coming out here, and we have a RFA that's tentatively scheduled for release in mid-January. So keep a lookout. If you are thinking this is something you want to be a part of, we're always looking for, new opportunities and new applicants for people that want to provide these services locally. And eligible applicants, there's a lot of opportunity here. So I've created a list of them. I've put them here in the slide so that you can look at that. And even if you're an employer or maybe you're an organization that sort of fits outside of what this eligible applicant is, just remember, we're all about partnerships. So if you want to come in as a consortia, if you want to come in as a partnership, there may be some opportunity to do that. So check that RFA out when it comes online here, probably mid-January. Be looking for that if you're interested in being able to provide these types of services in your own community. And then, as I promised, for those of you that did not get the link at the top of the webinar, in the top of the session, there's a link here. If you're looking for providers near you and programs near you that you may want to reach out to create a new partnership there at the local level, and you're interested in the services that are happening in your own communities, feel free to land on that page, look up who that provider is, and give them a call. We're always doing sessions like this to drum up business and make people very aware of what's out there. So Prati, if you care, that's all the slides that I have. So I'm open for questions.
Absolutely great presentation. And I do have 3 questions here. The first question is, how do AEL work with ISD high school vulnerable students?
So can you ask the question one more time?
Yes, how do AEL work with ISD high school vulnerable students?
So it's a good question, and it actually speaks, I think, to one of the eligibility questions that we typically get asked, and that is, do we work with youth? So it's a great question and an opportunity for me to kind of clarify that. So the answer is yes, we do have many of our programs and the funds that we have out in local communities do go to ISDs through that competitive application process. We will serve individuals and youth who are 16 and up, but we do follow the state compulsory attendance laws. So what that means is if they are enrolled in secondary education, meaning they're enrolled in a public school, then they're not eligible for AEL. However, if they're 16 and by way of court order, they're no longer attending public school, we will serve them with a court order. If they're 17 or 18 and they have parent permission, maybe they've dropped out of school and they're looking to obtain their high school equivalency as another option, we will also work with those individuals in a youth capacity.
Great. The second question is, are ex-offenders eligible for AEL?
Good question. One of the things that one of the special populations that we serve in adult education and literacy are ex-offenders. We have local programs, and many of our grantees offer great support in terms of reentry initiatives to ex-offenders within those communities, and that is pretty extensive. It can start while they're still incarcerated, and something that transitions once they are no longer incarcerated to keep them and create the linkages that they need to those community programs once they are sort of out of prison, out of jail. So we do work with ex-offenders. We do offer reentry services. It's a special population. We actually have targets associated with this population and serving ex-offenders. Great question.
Good. And the third question I have is, what is the cost per trainee allocation for ATX and ATB? And if you don't mind, just let us know what is ATX and ATB.
So ATX is an acronym that we use. It's for Accelerate Texas. And I had a slide here. I can probably still go back to it. Accelerate Texas, that's ATX. And then ATB is Ability to Benefit. And in terms of the cost per, you'll find that information outlined in the RFA. We're constantly looking at, the cost for what does it really take to do this integrated education and training model. And it does vary sometimes. So my advice would be to look at that RFA when it comes out. You should be able to find the information in there if you're specifically looking for Accelerate Texas or Ability to Benefit.
Good. And the fourth question I have is there a program in each county, or how is the service delivery set up in the workforce area?
Another great question. So the way that our funds are allocated through our core grant, and again, this is a competitive grant, we allocate our funding by workforce board area. That is the way the funding is allocated. It's further broken down by county. So yes, we do fund based on the county level. And then when the service providers are, basically under contract with us, they are required to serve the counties within that workforce board area based on their application.
Good. So right now we have about 5 minutes left. If anyone has any more questions, please go ahead and ask. If not, what we have right now is we are going to have a very short break, and at 12:35, Commissioner Dimerson will be with us to close out our conference. Please continue to stay connected, and we will be back on very shortly. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back to our final session of our conference. I think we've had a great day, and I feel like we might have just the perfect person on tap to wrap things up for us. Not only is he a champion for economic development and employers throughout the state, he probably knows more about employer initiatives than just about anyone. He could have done this conference all by himself and pulled it off beautifully. But at the same time, I know he has a greater appreciation for this team than I can't think of anybody else. So welcome, Commissioner Dimerson, for those of y'all, everybody knows Commissioner Demerson, but he was appointed to serve as the commissioner representing employers by Governor Abbott in August 2019. And man, what a first year it has been for him to be a commissioner here with TWC. In this position, he provides leadership and direction to engage employers, business organizations, and the economic development community in the ongoing development of a customer-focused, market-driven workforce system. So thanks for joining us, Commissioner Demerson. We're glad to have you close us out.
Good, good. Glad to be here, Mary. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity for sure. And so, Mary, you appreciate your leadership. You hit the ground running. As they say, there's probably no honeymoon when you come from one state agency to another. You're at the governor's office, and so you're a known commodity. And the honeymoon is very short whenever we're dealing with situations like that. But thanks for what you're doing and your leadership as well. You know, you guys have had a jam-packed agenda, relevant conference, relevant information, and so keep up the good work as it relates to what you're doing. You know, many of you guys know I've had the opportunity, was blessed to serve on the OEI team. And I have high levels of respect for not only the work that they do day in and day out, but for the individuals as well. I have very, very, very fond memories of my time there, and they continue to be just like family to me as well. You know, I'm privileged with the opportunity to work with two awesome commissioners. Our chair, Brian Daniels, who represents the public, and Commissioner Julian Alvarez, that I call the Texas Tornado, who represents the employees. Two fine gentlemen that we work very well together, and pleased to be associated with them. I know they had an opportunity to present to you guys as well. And so they, like I, stand ready to assist you in any way that we can as you move forward. And so now as I close out this forum, you know, the only thing, I'm the last thing sitting. Normally I'd be standing, but I'm the last thing sitting between you, lunch, and the weekend. And so I'm gonna keep my remarks brief and then be open for any questions that you guys might have. I'm not sure the format or so, but we'll be in a position to answer questions if we want to. You know, at the end of the day, the rubber really meets the road at the local level. And so I'll speak directly to the individuals that are on this call. What I call the secret sauce here in Texas is the ability to bring together the worlds of workforce, economic development, and education. Tamara Atkinson with the Workforce Solutions team here in the capital area, she calls it the 3 E's, employment, education, and economic development. When you bring those three together, we're very successful here as a state here in Texas. I mean, you can't get around that. And whenever we're recruiting projects to the state and or our existing businesses, the work that you guys are doing day in and day out with those three entities coming together is what separates us in a big, big way. And so I want to commend you guys on the work you're doing day in and day out. I know some of the sessions that have been taking place. I've heard the feedback on some of the sessions. And so real proud of the work that's being done there. I know Robert Andrade had taken on the high demand job training and TIP program. I know that's in one of those areas. And Carlton was talking to me about that. And you see the success that's come out of some of those programs, the JET program, just so many of the programs that you guys have that it's worked on at the local level through colleges, the economic development organizations, and the workforce solutions offices is what separates us and allows us to make a lot of progress in our state. You know, these are some unprecedented times. My other commissioners may have mentioned it. You know, we've done the equivalent of 1 year's worth of work in a 1 month time frame. It's pretty phenomenal when you're looking at what we have, millions of calls that we've received over the years. But day in and day out, I know the team, the OEI team, pivoted real quick. Our chairman, actually, I give him the credit on this, I think came up with this initiative to take some of those skills dollars and really to pivot those and to utilize those towards this pandemic. And you guys have just done yeoman's work in regards to making sure that you're taking advantage of those programs. $10 million, it was so successful, we put another $5 million into that program, and they've created a number of different programs programs and initiatives that have been a benefit to folks at the local level. So the ability to pivot fast like that, Mary and the team really and Christina, all of these guys really jumped on board to make sure that we were in a position to stand up for our employers, businesses here that ultimately results in our employees benefiting from those programs as well. And so we're continuing to do a lot here in Texas. You've heard the Hewlett-Packard Enterprises up there that's coming into the Houston region. Hats off to Linda Head and her team at Lone Star for what they're doing in that region. She quite often keeps us in the loop on things that are happening there. Tesla here in the Austin or the capital area region. I was on a call just yesterday with the folks from Tesla where they're just going to do some just phenomenal things here in our region and in our state, as a matter of fact. And we teased a little bit with a new resident that we might be having here in Texas as a result of some of those initiatives. And so we continue to do some phenomenal things, 16 years in a row where we're being known as the best state to do business, Governor's Cup 8 years in a row, a number of different things that we brag about. And you often hear me say that in Texas, it ain't bragging if it's true. Fact of the matter is that we are doing some things in the right way, and that's being done because of the work that's been done at the local level, coupled with what we have here at the state level. As I close out, I want to remind you guys to do some things that are important to me. Partnerships and relationships. You know, I mentioned Linda and a few other folks, the folks down there in South Texas College, where Commissioner Alvarez may have talked about the large employer of the year, Doctors Renaissance Hospital, receiving that award just the other day, but working collaboratively with the community college down there in that area. Relationships and partnerships are very, very important. And I want to challenge you guys to really look at the programs that we have here, look at what we're doing. And I know Mary's open to this and probably already doing it, but we want to listen to you guys and really take what we're doing, and if we can do it better, let's look at doing that. You know, let me hear from you from the employer standpoint, anything that I can do as it relates to making sure that our employers are getting the best to be able to succeed in that vein. I want to work with you to make that happen in big, big ways. And so relationships, partnerships are very important. And as I started out, our secret sauce is when we bring together the worlds of workforce, economic development, and education. We can't go wrong when we do that. And so our hope, my prayer is that we'll get through this pandemic and that Texas will get back to being number one, as we often have been. We don't rest on our laurels at all, but we are very resilient. And we want to make sure that we stay resilient, but not to the point where it starts to hurt. We want to bounce back and keep moving stronger and forward in big, big ways. And so, Mary, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the work that you guys are doing. And to that OEI team, you always have my best in regards to what you guys are doing. And if I can do anything for you, I want to be able to do that. And all of the partners that are out there, I've appreciated the work that we've done over the years. We're going into 2021. You probably have heard from Michael Britt, a legislative session that's coming forward. And we have opportunities. And I think I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds, not only with our team and teams here at TWC, but what you guys are going to do day in and day out there in the fields. The rubber meets the road at the local level. You guys are the boots on the ground, and that's where all the activities happen. We get to just play in that space in big ways, big ways. And so, Mary, thank you for the opportunity, and I'll take any questions. And if not, I'll let you guys get to the weekend because you've had a very packed conference with some real good information. So again, congratulations to the OEI team for pulling that off. I mean, it's something that's very necessary, and I was real pleased with the agenda that you guys had.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Commissioner, for those words of encouragement.